Okay, so we're moving on now with part 3 of the tutorial. This is for the Django documentation. And in this part, we're going to be digging deeper a little bit into the views section. We're going to create different views for our poll application. And here we'll add an index view. The index view will display the last few questions that were added to the model. The question detail page, which will display the question text with no results, but with a form vote, where you could display your vote or you could choose your vote, and then the results page, where it will display the results of a particular question. And finally, a vote action, which will handle the voting for a particular choice in a particular question. So here we are getting into a very interesting part of the Django capabilities, which is the URL path, the path interpretation, which is what are you going to do with the path that comes here? For example, let's take this path right here in the top of the page. Here you see that there's a domain, which is this one. And after that, you have this path. And this path consists into 4 parts, right? Here we could say this is a string. This could be a float or a number. This is another string. This is another string. But this string right here corresponds to a specific part of the tutorial, which is this one. So we have to tell the backend what are we looking for, and the backend has to take this part right here and use it to dig the database in order to know what to display or what to show. Okay, so first of all, we're going to write more views for polls app. Why do I need the question ID here? Because I cannot know the detail of a question. I cannot look for the detail of a question if I'm not told what ID I'm looking for in my database, right? So we're gonna create these 3 views in our project. So we're gonna go to views. Now, we're gonna paste the views now in the polls app. Okay, let's close the migrations. Inside the views, not the models, inside the views, we're gonna delete this because I created this before, and we're going to paste the 3 views that we just got created. This first HTTP response is you're looking for a question ID question. Okay, you're inserting the string here. Then the second one, which is the result, it's created in a different manner, but it still works. It's the same thing that you got up here, but you're creating this response first, this response variable, and inside this response variable, you're dropping this this string, and after that, you're going to return inside the HTTP response your response and related to this question ID. And finally, the last one is very similar to the first one. Okay, this is going to change anyway in a little bit. So save this. So now it says here, take a look in your browser at polls number 34, for example. It will return a detail function that is displayed, and whatever ID you provide in the URL, for example, try polls 34 results and polls 34 vote to, this will display the placeholder results in voting pages. So this means that anytime that you create path and you go to a path, when you write this kind of code, let's copy it. It's gonna be easier to understand it here. Every time that you write, remember when we talk about matching, right? So if your URL, if your path looks like this, what the program is going to do is, after, remember that polls was part of the first line of URLs that Python checks, that Django checks. It was like this. It will be path 34. So once it matches, here it matched. So the rest of the string, the rest of the path was passed to the second one, right? And here's not created yet, but as you can imagine, now there will be something here that should say whenever a path comes with a number here, with a number inside, it's not like this. Remember, it's not like this, but it will, so that you understand, you have to return the views detail, okay? Like this. So what it is saying here is that take a look in your browser, Pulse 34. It will return the detail function inside your views and whatever ID you provide in the URL. In the URL. So what is happening here is that you get this created. The ID that was passed here, this number, will be passed to this value right here. Okay? So the question ID is going to turn into whatever was in this part of the path. Okay? So that's the correlation. That's what this view is expecting. It is expecting for you to pass a number, and the number will be taken from the path. Okay? So this is actually wrong. This is not how it's going to look. Let's move on. So the question ID 34 part comes from this notation itself. Using the bracket captures part of the URL and send it as a keyword argument to the view function. This question ID part of the string defines the name that will be used to identify the match pattern. And the int part is a converter that determines what patterns should match this part of the URL path. So this part here, which is a converter, actually it's very, very flexible inside Django. You can create all sort of converters. Includes you can even create your own personalized converters. That I think that we should create someday a tutorial on that. It's part of the documentation, so we're gonna get there in time. But it's very flexible. It's amazing. So let's move on with this because it's all gonna make sense when we write the URLs. So here it says what we were talking before. It says that each view is responsible for returning or an HTTP response or an HTTP 404. So all Django wants is an HTTP response or an exception, nothing more than that. Okay. And so here it says, let's write something more complex. Okay. So because it's a converter, let's use Django's own database API, which we covered in the last tutorial. Here's one tab at a new index, which displays the latest 5 pulse questions in the system. So let's see what happens here. Okay. Let's move this into the views on GP response and models import questions. So here we have to say the view index here. Let's do it from here. So what we're gonna do now is we imported the model question so that the view can access the question now. It can access the database, right? Or not the database, but at least the model. So we're gonna say, we're gonna create a variable that's the latest question list. This is gonna be a list. And this list will consist of 5 objects, or at least 5 objects, which will go from the beginning of the set until index number 5, but not including number 5. So it's going to be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, right? Those 5 items. And those are going to be all the objects inside question, ordered by publication date, but starting from the last one, from the most recent, okay? Then the output is going to be a string, which is, this is a list comprehension, okay? Where you return every question text that you have inside this list, and you join them with this connector, right? So the HTTP response could be just the output. So this should consist of a 5 item, of a string, 5 items, 5 objects, 5 items, 5 objects, 5 string, 5 items, 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 5 items, 5 string, 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 5 ite of the 5 item names connected with a comma. Okay, so that's what this is supposed to return. Now there's a way that if we do it like this, it's very static, right? Because what you're gonna get here as a response is probably an HTML file that will contain probably inside a text, inside like this, something like this, and it will say just A, or question A, B, C, D, and E, right? And just like that. So we cannot work with that in the template. It's just text, simple text, and it's static. So you have to pass it as a list, one next to the other one. If I want to display this in another way inside the template, it's going to be a problem because Django is doing that for me. But I have to give the exact thing that I want to pass. So this has a much better way to do it, and you can order that inside your template. So what is a template? A template is an HTML file that will allow you to display information dynamically, and you have to pass that information to your HTML some way, in some way, somehow. So the way Django works with templates is in the settings file. You have templates here, which it has inside here. You're going to use as a default. You're going to use a template folder. Okay, you're not setting this here because there's a way to set this in a better way. But let's seek for what the configuration, the tutorial specs for now. And it says that inside your polls folder, you have to create a new folder called templates. And inside this new folder, you will have to create a new folder called polls again. And why is this? Because if you don't put polls, it will work as well. It will work fine. The thing is that if the template folder will be inside every application that you create. So if after this we create a new application with another name, we're gonna have inside another template folder. And if we put for example, an index file right here inside the templates folder, Django might look for that index file, and if it's repeated in the other app, it wouldn't know where to get it. So when you put this second folder beneath it, you're specifying inside the templates folder to which sub application this template belongs. Okay, so what it says here is you're gonna put the following code inside your template. So we're going to create a template, and it's going to be called index.html. So inside polls, we create a new file, index.html, and here we just paste what it was. We paste the file here, okay? This, and I'm guessing that everything, yeah, it's correct. So what is this? What does it say here? It said that if there's a latest question list, because if there are files actually inside a latest question list, then loop through all those items and take each item, each question, create an anchor tag. Okay? Now we'll see what this is. And inside that, with this kind of notation inside the HTML, display for that question, it's question text. Okay? And then if there's nothing inside, just display no polls are available. And this anchor tag, you're creating here dynamically a path, so that if you click on this question, you will be creating this path. The path is called polls, and after that, you're passing the question, this question ID, as part of the second part of your path. So let's see this in action. But now let's update our index, because why? What happens now? Why would this wouldn't work right now as it is? Because the problem is, imagine that here you're displaying this information. When the HTML wants to render this, it will look for this variable, right? But as you know, the HTML is not Python code. So it doesn't know where to look for this information. This file cannot go inside your project, inside your program, look inside your views, and know that we're looking for this variable right here. So what we have to create now is pass this information to your template. And this is done in the following manner. Now, let's copy this. Let's paste it here. And let's find out what is happening right now. So now you imported this loader function, okay? The latest question list is still the same because it's question objects order get a list of 5 starting from the end. Then the template now it's loaded through the loader where you're going to get that template that you created in polls index, okay? And why don't I put here template as well? Because Django always looks for your templates inside your template folder, okay? So when you put get template, it will look inside the template folder, it will look for the polls folder inside it, and it will look for the index HTML file inside that. And then you create a context, where the context is dictionary. The key for this first value is the latest question list. And why it is a string? Because you would say that this is a variable. The thing is, this is a string because you're going to pass this string, which is going to be the name of the information that you're passing to your HTML. So here, for example, I could change this to my own, like this, my own name. So I want to use this variable, and I would tell Django to 4 questions in my own name variable, okay? But here, I will have to put here my own name as well. And this would work just fine because I'm telling the HTML, okay, I'm passing you this context, this information that you will need, and the name that you have to look it for inside your template is like this, my own name. And what information will you get in my own name? Everything that is listed here, okay? Because that is the latest question list, okay? So we're gonna roll back here. And we're going to roll back here so everything remains the same. We're gonna save all files. And now, it says, it's passed as a context, and now we should try this. Let's try it. So let's run Python manage.py run server. Okay. So what happened here? Warning here. Where's this? Route beginning with dash. Where is this? Where is this? Oh, this was not supposed to be here. Just like that. There we go. Okay, so now we go inside here. Of course, we didn't find anything. If you want to find something here, what we should do, just for the sake of it, just to understand how this works, we should put here path, where everything that starts with actually nothing would display a view, or we could play views, home. Let's put it like this, just that. Let's import from here, from dot views, which is not exactly here. Import home, or even better, from import views. This is not part of the tutorial. I'm just creating this right now, and this is not the proper thing to do. Usually, you mess up with this folder right here, but this is just for not to land in a simple page. Okay, so let's create a new file here. New file, call it views.py. Now inside here, we will create um, just a view. Home request will return an HTTP response from Django HTTP for HTTP response, and we're going to create here return HTTP response. We're gonna put here like this is our home, so this should work. Let's try it again. So here, okay, this is our home. Hopefully you understood what we just did. I set a new URL empty just to display something here that this is our home. Okay, so we don't land on an error. So now we're going to test the other function. What we want to try now is to see if what happens when we go to the false section. Okay, false section, the view that has to be displayed is the index, and now we have this information right here. So let's see what happens inside the false. There you go. Now we had two items because those are the two items that we created. Okay, those are the two items that are inside our database here in the questions. It's the first one, second one, and they got displayed inverse in an inverse manner. Okay, the second one first and the first one here. And if I click here, you will see that we get an error. But if you see the path that got created, we created here a path which is false and the ID of the item that we just clicked. Okay, so that is how a path gets created. It gets created dynamically through our HTML file, because we told here that every time you find an item in this list, you have to create a list item, convert it into an anchor tag, and inside that anchor tag, you have to create this path right here, which consists on the polls plus this information. Okay, so this works very similar to what we see in Jinja in the Flask framework. You see, so if you want to put code, you just if you want to put logic, actually you have to use these curly braces and with the percentage sign. Okay, and inside that you can put functions. If you can use operators, you can use for loops and other things. And if you want to display some variable information, you have to put it inside or between two curly braces. Okay, so I think that this is okay for now, and we will stop it here and continue with the other one in another video.